Bryce Young has started the ascent. And you're allowed to be excited about that. Will Levis has looked good. CJ Stroud has looked good. Anthony Richardson, before getting hurt, has looked good. You're allowed to be excited about incremental progress from Bryce Young. It might be the best sign out of any of them. Now, we talked about this stat earlier in the week, but I'm going to dive into it even further. Here's the stat. Per Pro Football Focus, which isn't the end-all, be-all, don't get me wrong, but they do watch the film and they do break it down. Bryce Young in his first 3 games as a starting quarterback in the NFL, the number 1 overall pick for the Panthers, first 3 games as a starter in the NFL, 1 big-time throw, according to PFF, 6 turnover-worthy plays. That's the first 3 games. What happened in the next 3, right? He started 6 games. In the most recent 3 games for Bryce Young, 6 big-time throws, 1 turnover-worthy play. He flipped the script. From 1 big-time throw and 6 turnover-worthy plays to 6 big-time throws and 1 turnover-worthy play. Big-time throws and protecting against turnovers, that is his bag, okay? That is what he does. That is what he needs to do to reach his ceiling. When he won the Heisman Trophy in college, 47 touchdowns, many of them on big-time throws to guys like Jamison Williams and John Mechie, against just 7 interceptions. 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's his game. You don't want him tucking and running it a bunch. You don't want him having to do anything outside of what he's capable of, but he is capable of big-time throws and protecting the gosh darn football. This is what you were hoping for. And I would argue the slow, incremental, getting better, figuring it out, learning, seeing what defenses are doing to stop you, beating it, right? Figuring out how to counter is more important than being great right out of the gate. Right? It's more important than having a tremendous amount of success from game 1. Now, don't twist my words. If Bryce Young came out in that first game, week 1, and threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, I would be every bit as excited as Titans fans were when Will Levis got his first start and threw for 4 touchdowns. I get it. You should be excited for that. But slowly figuring it out and making adjustments is way more important than being shot out of a cannon when the season starts or when you get your opportunity. We've seen that a bunch of times. That can be figured out. That might be you have one trick. That might be you have one trick. And it's going to take defensive coordinators a while to get the book out on you, to put the blueprint on how to stop you out there. And then once that happens, it's like, well, you were awesome when you started. Great. If you can adjust and figure it out, that is sustainable. That's when I become super confident in a quarterback. The first time they get figured out and then play elite after that. I'll tell you usually how a player gets figured out, okay? A player like Mahomes, a player like Burrow, a player like Allen, a player like Lamar Jackson, right? They come out and they light the league on fire. And then there's one particular adjustment that takes away what they do best, and it takes them a minute to not force it. Let me explain. When Pat Mahomes was first introduced to the league, right? It was that second year in the league, first year as a starter. He had Tyreek Hill on his team. So guess what he did a ton of? Chuck that bad boy deep, right? He was like the owl in the licking the lollipop commercial, right? 1, 2, 3.
You'll hear it during Storm and 5.
Exactly. Right? It would be like he'd take the ball over on his 20-yard line, his own 20, and the question would be, how many plays does it take to get to the end zone? And you'd think it was going to be this methodical drive of like, you know, pick up a 3rd and 2, first down, all right, 7 yards here, completion short here. But what it really would be like completion to Kelsey, touchdown to Tyreek Hill. 3. It takes 3 plays to score a touchdown. And then what happened? Okay, that took the league. He had 50 touchdown passes. MVP, right? World breaker, world beater. That's what he was. What happened? Well, the next year he showed up. Actually, I think it was 2 years later, if my memory serves me correct. And teams just started playing two shell, which means they took two safeties, put them deep, and said, you're not getting anything over our head. We're going to play coverage. Not quite prevent defense, but the same philosophy, right? Nothing gets over our heads. And it actually it made Mahomes struggle for a little bit. There were people out there that uttered the phrase, the league has figured Patrick Mahomes out. But guess what it was? It was discipline, right? Because he could not take 12-yard completion after 12-yard completion after 12-yard completion without biting the heck out of that lollipop and throwing it deep. And he was throwing more interceptions, and those plays were being drive stallers, and he was taking more sacks because he was waiting for guys to get open deep. And then, again, I'll never forget it. This is the weird kind of football nerd stuff that gets burned into my memory. I was watching the Manning cast on Monday Night Football, and Peyton Manning was talking about what he would say to Patrick Mahomes. And he said, I would look at him in the face, and I would say, when they play two shell against you, when they play that prevent, that nothing gets behind us defense, they are insulting you. They are saying you aren't disciplined enough to take the smart, short pass every single time. You aren't disciplined enough to beat us with 10 short completions, right? You're going to be undisciplined at some point, try to force a deep ball, and we're going to take advantage of it. And then eventually, guess what Pat Mahomes started doing? Check down, check down, check down, check down, check down. Travis Kelce over the middle for 7 yards. Check down, screen, check down, touchdown. And that's when I went, yep, he's going to be around forever. He's good. There's no figuring him out, right? If you ever do figure him out, he has the ability to change the way he plays. He has the ability to change the way he thinks. He has the ability not to get lazy, not to be undisciplined. You're good. That's what we're seeing on a much smaller scale with Bryce Young. We're just seeing it before he had the 50 touchdown season, right? Bryce Young came out in the first 3 games. It was like, woo, the league's got him. Defensive coordinators are further advanced than he is right now, and he is slowly changing the way he plays, slowly changing the way he makes decisions, adjusting to his receivers, adjusting to his play callers. And if he can do that, then guess what? The league's going to figure him out another time. The league is going to get some defense that stops him another time, and he's going to be able to go, no, that's cool. This has happened before. I wasn't playing great when I first got here, and I went back to the drawing board, and I fixed it. You want the incremental improvement almost more than you want shot out of a cannon greatness. Now, like obviously you could have the same storyline Mahomes had, which would be shot out of a cannon greatness. They figure you out. You still prove you can do the adjustments. But the adjustments are always the most important part for an extended, sustained career.
And the adjustments are there. I mean, just like a teenager, we're starting to see the glow up a little bit. The acne's starting to clear up. Now we're just waiting for the braces to come off. But through 8 games, he currently ranks 4th in the NFC with a 93.3 passer rating in the 4th quarter of games. And Young finished that game against the Texans, completing 22 of 31 passes for a 71% for 235 yards and a touchdown. Like we're starting to see it. That's why I think this game could be the best time for. That's why I feel like this game is a good opportunity for the Panthers to beat the Colts, because it comes in a good part of the season where they're starting to ride the high a little bit and finally realizing what it feels like to win.
He might be a little bit of an old soul, though. Did you see his Halloween costume?
Yeah, well,
he was Nelly, but Nelly.
Was he actually?
He was Nelly from like Air Force One's era Nelly, not the more recent like collaborations with the country singers Nelly. He was like 2002 Nelly.
So he wasn't Florida Georgia Line.
He was not Nelly. Florida Georgia Line Nelly. He was like a little bit later than Country Grammar, but he was Air Force One's Nelly, which is a he was probably like 3 years old when. So he might be an old soul. Which some of you are out there going, wait a second, if you listen to Nelly, you're an old soul. Yeah, we're getting old.